Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the State Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start public participation. Just a reminder, when I call you up, you can come to the front table, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. As soon as I get going, I'll start calling. Thank you. There's 3 signed up together. Do you want to all come up together? Okay. Wanda Harris, Dr. Nurali Patel, Dr. Violet Jimenez Sims. Morning.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm Dr. Violet Jimenez Sims. I'm the Managing Director of Academic Programming and Legislative Affairs for the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. And I'm here with my 2 colleagues today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shonda Harris. I'm the Managing Director of Residency and Financial Management for the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. Thank you for having us.
Good morning, Dr. Nurali Patel, Managing Director of Recruitment, Extension, and Partnerships at the Connecticut Residency Program. We're really happy to be here.
We have an information sheet going around, but while there are no actionable items on your agenda specifically related to teacher life insurance certification today, we do see that you'll be receiving a report on the topic. And as Connecticut's only year-long district embedded alternate route residency program that's designed explicitly to close the teacher diversity gap, we want to ensure that our program outcomes are clearly visible and not absorbed into statewide data that may blend together pathways with very different models and results. Connecticut continues to face 2 longstanding challenges. The first is the mismatch between the diversity of its teachers and that of its students. And second, the instability that's created by early career teacher turnover. And of course, this is in addition to the teacher shortage in general. Students of color make up approximately 54% of the population in the state, and educators of color represent about 12% of the teaching force. And that gap has real consequences for the student experience, their belonging, their achievement. And at the same time, teacher retention remains a pressing concern for leaders, families, and communities. Our program effectively addresses both of these challenges. Each year, about 90% of our candidates and completers identify as people from historically minoritized backgrounds. They enter the profession through a full-year paid residency that pairs intensive clinical preparation with high-quality coaching and coursework that is relevant to district needs. Our certification outcomes remain strong and consistent, and districts regularly tell us that our residents arrive better prepared for the realities of the classroom than candidates from some other routes. But most significantly, the outcome that our program has above any other is that our teachers stay. When it comes to retention, our program stands in a league of its own. Across multiple cohorts, our employee completers remain in the profession at rates that significantly outperform the statewide averages year after year. And while statewide effective retention dropped significantly between years 1 and 2 of a new teacher, our graduates maintain retention rates that are both stable and trending upward. So this matters because turnover destabilizes schools, drains district budgets, and disrupts student learning. It also matters because when teachers of color stay in the field year after year, students benefit academically, socially, and emotionally. Since 2019, our program has prepared about 175 teachers that are mostly all still in the classroom across Connecticut and contributes one of the most reliable and diverse pipelines of new educators in the state. Our biggest challenge is sustainable funding, as we are not a line item in the state's budget, despite our significant contribution to the SDE's goals of alleviating the teacher shortage and the diversity gap. So as you continue to have conversations about certification, workforce development, and the future of teaching in Connecticut, we'd just be grateful if if the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program is a part of those conversations. And so thank you for your time today. We are open to any questions. We set some information around and we're happy to connect.
For the information. Stringfellow?
Morning, Tom Springfield, visitors from Manchester. I want to welcome you, with education members on board this morning. These amazing, fully together, the diverse panel of people that really care for the different regions. And it's diversity, like I said, is a strength, not a weakness. And the reason I bring this up is for the history. I know this part of Native American Awareness Month, and I hope they came out maybe within the last 5 years, called Why We Serve Native Americans in the United States Armed Forces, going back to the Revolutionary Wars and the present community of their lives. Many conflicts against facing discrimination at home and reservation system and other issues, and some have prevailed in other parts, like in Red Green, they actor and dance with the world. He's the first one to win a supporting actor Academy Award in 1991. I also say that February is 100-year anniversary of Black History Month, and this is like a children's illustrated book by an author called by this Peter Nelson. Well, painting, it's called Heart and Soul. It's a very good book for middle school students. Very positive struggles of African Americans that have achieved against the odds. So I guess a good source is Barnes and Noble bookstore, the children's section and the history section too. At least they keep up to date. And like I said, there's no fake news out there. It's the news that everyone can learn from each other's history, despite what's going on in the Trump administration. We need to sanitize history as we approach the milestones in our country's history. And Hawaii was a sovereign nation that was legally taken over in 1898. So that's talk about, but we have to pull together when it's necessary. Also, December 10th is Human Rights Day, and I'm going to recommend a book. It came out maybe 5 years ago called Tyrants. It's Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, and others that the history that caused some havoc, but some were overthrown and should be forgotten because there's ugliness was happening in the Middle East and other areas of human rights violation, Far East and Myanmar, and we need to speak up against it, against those peoples. Physical education, that was put in the news recently in November. Local paper, Long Struggle with Youth Fitness, the Journal Inquirer, I think it's November 13th edition of that. And I think that's important along with academics. And we forget about that. So I'm hoping that, the ideas that pass along will be utilized and other people that really do care than not an academic and admire, the hiring of minority teachers. But sometimes we need to look into the community of volunteers of color, myself and others that really do care in a different way and they go to achieve their success. Just to end, Washington Monthly put out college rankings and following our truckers and careers in healthcare. That was in this morning's edition of the USA Today. They put out some helpful things. So, much luck to our students and that we need to hear from them again and just we got against any type of racism and other type of hyperbole out there. We can pull together as Americans and the message for the Trump administration: wake up and do the right thing. Thank you.
morning. My name is Deb. I'm the Education Issue Specialist with Connecticut Education Association. In that role, I am fortunate enough to work with our aspiring educators. It's not like me to not have something prepared, but I feel the need to speak about the new partnership between the Aspiring Ed program and Educators Rising. Last week, I was fortunate enough to collaborate with Educators Rising and their symposium, and it was just fabulous. It's really great to see the work of the pipeline from middle school, high school, and now we're kind of making it seamless into the college level in the Aspiring Ed program. Jason Foster has been a joy to work with, as well as Kim Salato. I was fortunate yesterday to speak to all of the teacher leaders and boldly invite myself into their classrooms in the spring to get the students enrolled in their college program through our early enrollment. It's just a really, really positive relationship that is being developed. It's taken a little while, but we're there. And CEA is super excited to be part of the pipeline work. And I'm also fortunate enough and grateful to have been elected the chair of the newly established Educators Rising Advisory Panel, which is going to strengthen that collaboration anymore. So Educators Rising is doing great things, Aspiring Ed is doing great things, and together we're going to do even better things. So just wanted you to hear that.
Thank you. Item 4 is consideration of minutes. I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Any changes, edits to the minutes of November 5th? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no need for executive session. My report. And a few things. I just want to remind the board too, and I know most of you are pretty good about letting me know anytime that you're out there doing something as board members to please let me know. We had a busy month between last board meeting and this one. Our first one was our school discipline collaborative. Thank you, Dr. Levis and Spreckert for also attending. It was a terrific update that the full board will, and I believe it's March, that the full board will get the update on discipline suspension rates and so forth that the full board will receive. But it was a great presentation. Thank you to John Frostinelli and Kim Traverso from the Education Department, as well as Evan McKnight from CERC. It was really a wonderful program to listen to and get an insight of what's going on in our schools. And I know there's been a few articles out there recently about the suspension rates, so we'll be hearing more about that. To go along with what Elizabeth talked about, the Ed Rising Symposium, I also attended. I was on the panel with Representative Brown and Representative Poulos. It was so great to see such a great program going on and seeing all these high school students in the audience and asking questions and to be able to chat with them and see so many that are looking forward to going to the teaching profession. So I thank you for that invitation, and it was really enjoyable. Our charter renewals are done. So again, thank you for all the board members who have seen those hearings. We are done for this year. For 2025. We also had the CAS convention just last week. Nice showing of the board. We had a lot of board members there, a real healthy discussion on many topics. I am going to point out one because I see that you nailed it. So that was not an easy question that was tossed your way as a student. They said, we want to hear from one of the students. The commissioner and I looked at each other like, and you just nailed it. It was really good. And it really drove home the importance of why there should be student members on a board. Because I don't think they were expecting your answer. I don't think they were expecting, and it was something to do about how should they shield student board members on boards and what should they include and what should they not include. And you answered it beautifully, really, by just saying you should not shield them. It is most important that they know and are part of that discussion. So thank you for that. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I had to point it out. There was a fantastic award also given to the Friend of Public Education Award, which was given to the Connecticut Education Department. So that was fabulous to see. I think it's the first time that the division, maybe Patrice, but no, division has ever received that.
Yes.
And that was just so great to see. And that is like all these people sitting around us and some in the audience. to get that recognition of that high esteemed award. Our Teacher of the Year celebration should have been last night, and for those of you that were going to attend, it has been moved to December 16th. So you need to let Albert know if that is something you can plan to do. Still at the Bushnell and move to December 16th. Another great honor that was bestowed on our commissioner is that she has become president-elect of CCSSO. So congratulations on that great honor. That is the National Council of Chief State and School Officers, and so it is always wonderful to have Connecticut represented at such a high level. Then we're going to start doing committee reports. Let's see, academic and standards. We are meeting on January 13th with our next meeting. Accountability and support. Last month we met with Thompson, Portland, and Waterbury. It was such a delightful meeting because everything was positive. It was all upbeat and positive. Those three districts are doing marvelous work. And that was the three that we talked about. Some of them were opportunity districts and alliance districts. So it was a great meeting to see. We actually have 2 meetings before our next meeting in January. We are meeting next week, December 10th, and then again on January 7th. So 2 meetings before our next. Finance and audit. Mr. Harris.
Oh. Am I on? Yes. Great. Good morning, all. Keith Norton, wherever he may be. Keith is continuing to serve as the interim program director, and he just don't know where he gets all of his energy. Outstanding job. As a committee, we met on November 18th. We reviewed department activity to include the numbers of audits that are being conducted, and nothing monumental. And that would conclude our report.
Good. Ms. Burr, legislation and policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Legislative and Policy Development Committee met after our previous State Board of Education meeting on November 5. The majority of our discussion took place around presentations and proposals from, that will be around the Connecticut Educator Preparation and Certification Board. And we will look forward to having continuing conversation regarding those topics.
And Dr. Pritchard from Connecticut Technical Education.
Good morning. Thank you. I just wanted to share a few updates. I celebrated the 1-year anniversary in my role at CTEC. Thank you very much. And I had the opportunity to reflect on kind of the year in review, and rather than giving you that whole lengthy email that I sent out this week, I just thought I would give you a couple of highlights. But I will say that when I visited school last year at this time and all last spring, I heard the need for lots of change, more transparency, more clarity, and things like that. So we've been working very hard, and I think we've made some significant progress. Still great amounts of work to do. The CTEC has only been its own agency for a few years and still has a good bit of work to do to stabilize that foundation. But we are getting there, and I really do want to thank the central office team, our advisory board, the leadership at each of our schools, and our staff at all as well. But we've made a lot of progress on the fiscal front, trying to understand exactly the resources we have, and working with the State Department of Ed to clean up some grant-related issues that we've had in the past. But those things are in progress, and we appreciate the partnership. And just, again, needing to steward our resources as effectively as possible. We have a lot of administrative policies and procedures that need work. And so we've been trying to dig into those, small and large, everything from whether you can have an appliance in your classroom to how we deal with public safety. So just lots and lots of things we need to get down and approved. And our capital projects are many. We excitedly got to open Bullard Haven's new school at the end of the beginning of last week. They physically the students started this week. Beautiful, beautiful new school in Bridgeport. And I encourage you to come and visit us there. And actually, we'd love to host a meeting at any of our schools. Certainly. So those are the not so glamorous pieces sometimes, but we've had lots of opportunity to work on our industry and community partnerships to showcase our schools. We're excited that the governor and legislators have been visiting to learn more about CTEX and how it is different than other LEAs that they may be more familiar with. So we're happy to do that and to really make sure that they understand the needs of our students. And we've been able to do some program expansion. We're offering some new adults programming. In particular, we've got some new apprenticeships with the Department of Labor, et cetera. So just lots of really good work there. And again, just want to thank everybody at the CTEX for their support. Superintendent Mike Rocco and I are really working well together and excited about the year ahead. He has just finished his tour of the 20 schools. So now he's trying to make sense of all that he has heard from folks and will be really digging into the work in the year ahead. So thank you for your all support, and we look forward to continuing to make progress and report that back to you.
Thank you. Good Burns, good morning, Dr. Maduka. Our next report will be Connecticut State Colleges and University from Chancellor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Commissioner.
The handout in your.
Can I be heard?
Okay, there is a handout in your supplemental folder.
Yes, yes. Good morning, everyone. Happy, I believe it's Thursday, Madam Chair, Madam Commissioner.
Only Wednesday.
It's Thursday in my mind. Okay. Here, as it was mentioned, there's a handout that provides some of the quick and fast facts that gives an overview of who we are at Connecticut State College and University system. We proudly serve 100,000 students annually across our 6 institutions. Right, we are up in enrollment as a system due to the hard work of our faculty, staff, and our institutional leaders. And we serve the working and middle class communities and residents of this great state, and we're unapologetic about that. As a system, 90% of our students, really 95% of our students, are from the state of Connecticut. Right, so we serve the people of this state, and over 80% of our graduates remain, live, and work in the state of Connecticut. Right, so we're not about supporting Texas and New York. We're about supporting the great state of Connecticut. That's really important to us. We're also proudly a minority majority system of higher education. Right, so it mirrors K-12 here in Connecticut in terms of majority of students being students of color. I think that's important, that our students look like the people of Connecticut, right? Really important. And as a higher ed system, our program spans everything from short-term credentials to associates, to bachelor's, master's, and even doctoral programs. But we are the most affordable system of higher education, hands down, in Connecticut, right? So we feel that we are set up to really meet the social, community, economic, and workforce development needs in our state. We know that we are facing an existential threat as relates to workforce development, right? 10,000 baby boomers are retiring a day in this country, right? We know the birth rate is down in New England, right? So we have to do more to meet the needs of the state, and we're ready for that. In terms of the programming and some of the things that we offer, we serve 10,000 early college and dual students a year. In partnership with the State Department of Education and others, we're really proud, excited to continue to expand that level of offering to our high school students. We know that the research data tells us that high school students who participate in college opportunities are not only more apt to graduate successfully from high school, right? They're more apt to matriculate to post-secondary experiences, right? And we have to do more of that to make sure that higher education is accessible and affordable to everyone in this state. 90% of Connecticut residents are within 30 minutes of one of our campuses, right? So we are the epitome of access, right? Because access is everything. Though I'm not from Connecticut, I understand the dynamics of east and west of the river, right? That is a thing, right? So making sure that you have one of our campuses in your respective backyard is huge. We have the CAP program, something else in partnership with the State Department of Education and other institutions of higher education, where nearly 2,000 students this fall semester matriculated from our high schools to our state universities, right? as long as they met a minimum requirement GPA of the graduates of our high school. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that going to college and university is a reality. We're proud that for 5 years we've had the PAC program, right? That is the Mary Handley Award Program, where the state has issued an appropriate $91 million, nearly 34,000 students at the state community college, where going to college is debt free. Right, so that's huge. It's been a game changer. It's not only stabilize our enrollment, but again, make it higher education accessible. And we're really excited for next academic year as we start the PAC Plus or the Finish Line Scholars Program, where now you can continue from CT State to our state universities together, right? And that's in partnership with our state legislature, Governor Lamont's administration. So, I really want to speak to that. In the education landscape here in Connecticut, we know that we don't have it without K-12. We don't, right? And we are your allies, we are your partners, we are your supporters. We're proud to work with you, but we know that we have to be better to ensure that when you hand off your students to us, it's a seamless transition in terms of their education and their training. And anything that we can do in advocacy, please don't mince words with us. We're proud of that. And the one last thing I want to mention, as we approach the legislative session, I know there's been a lot going on in terms of dealing with the effects of what's taking place at the federal government. And just know that as a system, we are working with state government, we're working with their institutional presidents, our faculty and staff to ensure that the affordability and accessibility and quality of our program remains. So really thankful that I get to serve our system. I'm really thankful I get to serve the great state of Connecticut. So happy to answer any questions, but again, thank you for your time.
For the Chancellor.
A comment, just appreciating the partnership that Dr. Maduka talked about, and the fact that he sits around the table as a member of our board is really critical. And, to say publicly, the work that we're doing around dual and concurrent enrollment, that seamless process that we're talking about is strong. Dr. Maduka was on the table when we did our assessment release, really demonstrating the partnership that we're on in supporting our students and making sure they have the pathways and the choice to move forward. And so he doesn't know that yet, but we'll be planning a presentation for this board publicly, so we can really show and demonstrate the work that is happening. Because I think some of it is a little not clear for folks in terms of the work that we're doing in this area. And so we will be doing that. Technical high schools, right, a part of that work as well, but our traditional schools are really getting into that and doing that work as well. So as a state, you've seen the outcomes of what it is that we're doing, but there's still a lot to be done, and we'll be working together to make sure that that happens for all our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things on your handout that really stuck out to me, and I'm guessing it's quite a big increase, is the adult learners at 30%. I'm assuming that's increased quite a bit over the last few years.
Yeah, it has. I want to say nearly 21%, at least 21% of our students statewide are working college students, right? And often when you look at federal iPads, data and metrics, indicators in terms of student success, they really look through the lens of a full-time student. College students in Connecticut are working adults, they're parents, they're firefighters, they're cops, they're para-educators, right? They're electrical line workers, making sure that our communities are sustained. So the flexibility of being able to attend not only part-time, but also at an extremely affordable rate is huge to ensure that this tenth of Connecticut is accessible to all.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's great information. Thank you both, Dr. Pritchard and Dr. Manuka, for your updates. We are very fortunate to have these partnerships and have you sitting at the table with us. Thank you. Next report is NASB. Just to let you know, the next member exchange is December 8th, next Monday. And it's on AI and education is what they're going to be covering on that one. And then just a few things that have occurred. Actually, today there is a panel that we were actually asked to be on with the work that Connecticut is doing out of Stanford University, but however, it's the same time as we're sitting here. So I had to pass on that, but I will update you on they were going to use Connecticut in this panel, information from Connecticut. So I'll make sure that I get that information to you. And we did have a major recognition in a recent article from NASB about Blue Ribbon as Connecticut led the country immediately. And it was nice even to see that it was really just immediate that Connecticut turned over and said, our Blue Ribbon schools will be honored. So that was nice to see that. And then in the article said, and then other states followed. So again, Connecticut leading the path, which is really nice. You have your CERC report with you in your folders. The great work is still continuing. The partnerships are so important. Again, earlier I mentioned Evan McKnight, who's from CERC, that did the update on school discipline at the collaborative. So I'll try to highlight those pieces every month too, so the board really understands the relationship and the importance of the CERC work as well as with this agency. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you very much, and good morning again to all the board members. Our last board meeting of 2025. And so we'll provide you with some key updates. You do have my commissioner's report in the supplemental packet. We continue our efforts of aligning and working to execute on the state board's 5-year comprehensive plan. A few updates, things that happened. We had our 8th annual performance standards forum, which was held at the Hartford Convention Center on November 7th. Performance Matters, and we're now year 8 in doing it, is a conference that highlights best practices in K-12 education across Connecticut. And this particular conference in November featured presentations on assessment, multi-tier systems of support, instructional coaching, college and career readiness, small group instruction, school leadership development, multilingual learners, school climate, you name it. And the really great thing about that, we have partnerships and presentations between our districts, partnerships and presentation with the department, to be able to showcase those best practices, and hopefully folks can take that and go back to their districts for implementation. So I really want to thank all our district staff and team CSDE, our members who were a part of that planning and a part of the presentations. As you heard from Elizabeth earlier and also Vice Chair Benham, we continue our efforts in expanding our educator workforce. And you heard about the Connecticut Educators Rising Symposium that was held at Wesleyan University. The theme was Finding Your Voice, Leading with Passion. And so the work continues as we look to expand our educator workforce, and certainly appreciate the staff who continue to lead that work. Supporting states' safe and healthy learning environments is another key area of strategic focus in our board's plan. I hosted our Commissioner Superintendent Advisory panel just not too long ago. And at our meeting was Commissioner Higgins, who joined us at that meeting, really to talk with and get feedback from a group of superintendents about the work that they're doing on school safety. And you'll get some further updates a little bit later on in my presentation. We also hosted and had a presentation to a delegation of China educators. We get a chance to do this every year. And so we had some leaders here who had a presentation on a model curricula and design principles, as well as our Connecticut 616 educator pathway to this visiting group of educators from China. And the staff were able to do that with them, which is great.
You never get to go over there.
They invite us. I've not been able to go. But we've got invitations from them. We've also had invitations from Taiwan based on the partnerships that we have in getting that work done. So we'll keep you posted. Maybe they can get a delegation of us.
There you go. To see how a school is run there.
That's right. The team CSDE also supported our Connecticut Food Shared Thanksgiving All Drive. Thanksgiving for All Drive, which happened in this building. All the agencies in this building gathered to donate food and money to make sure we're giving back to the community. So I certainly appreciate the staff who contributed to that. And we recently on Monday actually held our all staff virtual convening. And Patrice, specifically, we shared and showed our Friend of Public Education Award, which will be taking its tour around our agency. It will start off with my office putting really great street in and passing it on to the next one, and then we'll pass it around so we all get a chance. But really just wanted to appreciate the staff, as we mentioned, and as I said in the accepting on their behalf, They're the backbone of that recognition, and just so appreciate the work that they do every day. I said my acceptance about the 224, and sometimes people think there's a lot more of us here, because as I said, we punch above our weight class. The team works very hard to do a lot of things that are nation leading, and we're really proud of that. And so just appreciate them. So we gathered virtually. We're planning an in-person spring meeting of the entire team. We've grown out this space, which is usually where we meet. So we have to find some place off our space here to be able to do that, but certainly looking forward to do it. And Patrice, really appreciate that recognition of that award, as I mentioned, and continue to do the work. It's a nice, wind beneath the sails for the work that's done every day.
Deserved.
Thank you. In our shout outs, we also have information from our Regional School Choice Office. I'm going to ask Robin Cesar just to join us and talk a little bit about our annual South Windsor Gingerbread House Festival that we've specifically got some more treats for you. And Robin, if you can also talk about us exceeding our first major benchmark in the Jeff B. O'Neill settlement agreement. So we'll get that out to you, and I'll just
that one. Good morning, everyone. Let me just
have to get you on my
box.
Treat.
All right, so good morning, everyone.
That doesn't look very edible.
I don't want to eat it, Mr. Harris.
I think they were looking for gingerbread, as I
I know.
You said gingerbread.
You said gingerbread and then
So.
you're like, oh, is there snacks?
More the picture of the gingerbread house.
I did that next reaction. No, we were excited, it's a little bit different, about gingerbread houses, but we have a very, very talented staff. And one of our staff who's in the Parent Resource Center, her name is Brenna Casey. She actually used to be a teacher at one of our magnet schools, and now she works with families, but she's so super talented. And we like to get out into the community in different ways. And one of the things we did was to join South Windsor's Gingerbread House Festival. They do it every year. Last year, we were in their library. The library's under renovation, so now we're at Nomads. If anyone's been to Nomads, I've been there way too many times with my kids. But they're having this huge festival. It's free. And so we have a Resco gingerbread house that's renovated. It's all made of things. It's no candy or anything, which is amazing. So we had the house last year, which she enhanced. It's got our QR code, takes you right to our website, which is really cool. And then she added a playground, and we were at a Nomads event, I was there myself, and she made 120 gingerbread people out of cinnamon, applesauce, and blue.
Oh, now you're losing it in.
And the kids decorate them so it's in the playground. So it was really cool, a lot of fun, but it is a way to be interactive and in the community and raising brand awareness. So we traveled Brenna and our gingerbread house. So that was a cool thing we've been doing. The commissioner mentioned our benchmark, which was our first consequential or measurable metric, if you will, under the comprehensive school choice plan that we agreed to in January of 2022 and became a court order in March of 2022. And this was a big benchmark. It was meeting the demand of Harvard resident students for a placement in a choice program within our system, which includes magnet schools, choice, and the 3 technical schools. And so that was a big benchmark to have hanging over us. It was the meaning demand of entry grade. So that means K3, pre-K4, kindergarten, 6th, and 9th. And the benchmark was 95%, and we exceeded it by over 90, we achieved over 96%. So we are super proud of that. That was a big step. Our next benchmark, I talked to the Martha Stone, who's the plaintiff's counsel, and she said, what are you doing about the next one? I'm like, can we celebrate this one? But the next one comes in 2028, and we have to meet demand for Harvard resident students for all grade levels. So that one will be a little more. But we are celebrating the hard work and achieving that first benchmark.
What you have in front of you, we're super proud of this. I show it to my family and my children. They're like, we really don't need to see this every year, but it is our family guide. It's English on one side, Spanish on the other. We've enhanced it, which we do every year. And I'll just point out one really cool thing that we added this year. We're leaning hard into the axolotl. It's kind of STEM related. The kids are all over, whether they're little to teenagers. It's so funny, this axolotl phenomenon. So that's kind of become our mascot. So in the beginning of the guide, we developed the timeline using the axolotl here. The axolotl takes you through the phases of the application with the timeline. So we're trying to make it more accessible and easy for families to follow. So that was one of our enhancements that we added this year. I'm not distributing this, but just wanted to let you see that we have made flyers for every school in our system and every open choice district that front and back, we have English and Spanish. And it's just those points that we want families to know that are easily accessible and they're uniform so that families know what they're reading, know what to expect when they're looking at the information about a school. We're all about informed choices. So those are some of the things we've done this year, and super proud to keep doing good work and try to get better every year. The big day is today. Our application opened this morning. So applications have been rolling in, but phones are busy. And that runs through February 6th.
Thank you very much, Bob. And parents can come here and get help with filling out their applications.
We had extended hours. We tried to do all those things to look around families. We are doing, just like one side note, we visited all our satellites, which has been really cool for me. I've been going and talking to the directors and finding out, what their needs are. And we learned that several have multiple languages that are spoken, and that's a need. So we are translating some of our materials into the 5 most common languages at those sites. So that's just another enhancement we're trying to add to make all of this information accessible to families. So that's a new thing that we're doing this year.
Thank you very much, Robin, for that update. And next time you have to bring gingerbread.
This is great, though.
Thank you. Great marketing.
Yeah.
For us. The next thing we'll do today is an update on Hartford Public School fiscal operations. Dr. Hughes is on much needed vacation break. So the Deputy Commissioner, no, I'm sorry. Yes, we're doing Hartford. So we will have Keith Norton to come and share an update with us on that. Your supplemental packet has a one-pager in it as well, but I know you got it this morning, so we'll finish. Wait.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here again. I promise I'll be brief this time. I have my colleague, Lucy Jenkins, our Chief Turnaround Officer. If you recall, in June of 2025, the department formed the Hartford Public Schools Accountability and Support Team, for the ASP. This is comprised of staff members from the department, from all of our divisions, all of our bureaus, touches almost every corner of the intent to help Hartford Public Schools staff implement the recommendations of our reports. This very good work is being led by my colleague, Wilson Jenkins. As this progresses and as the recommendations are fulfilled, this will naturally turn into turnaround work. So it makes sense, it's a natural fit. And you'll be being Melissa up here with me with my report in case there are further questions. The full AST has met twice with the superintendent and the CFO so that there is a good understanding of the purpose and function of the AST, as well as an understanding of the 61 recommendations that came out of specifically the NSK 12 report, special education, and the Public Works LLP report regarding financial operations. While this happened, even more importantly, We've had 6 meetings, a half dozen meetings already, smaller groups of AFP members with specific staff members from HPS as designated by the superintendent to really go through the particular recommendations. And I'm very happy to tell you that since June of 2025, HPS has made a lot of progress in strengthening its fiscal and grants management processes. As a matter of fact, 14 of the 33 fiscal management recommendations and 4 of the 13 grant recommendations are now complete already. Again, with that some help and support of agency staff. These include clarifying roles within the finance department, updating fiscal policies, development of a fixed asset management system, and a capital improvement plan that was much needed. On the special education front, also making progress here with the help of the AST towards developing its internal systems to monitor special education certified staff vacancies and service delivery to our students. At the same time, they've also developed robust tools to monitor our EP compliance and hiring of certified special education staff in compensatory special education services. Important to note that HPS has also restored its relationship with the Home for Literacy organization in an effort to improve foundational skills instruction and improve our literacy outcomes for our students. They're also Hill for Literacy is also partnering with our own Center for Literacy Research and Reading Success, and they will be providing instructional coaching to teachers in 10 elementary schools during the 25-26 school year. With regards to the grant management section, the final prong of inquiries, the executive summary that was presented to the board last month has been shared with the superintendent, the office of the mayor, and the chairwoman of the Hartford Board of Education. And CSDE staff will shortly begin the process of assessing the impact of the new budget framework, as well as developing proposed parameters for the allocation of state funding for consideration by the board, consistent with the 3 recommendations in the book as well. So that concludes my brief report today. I'm going to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments from board members? Very happy to see the reduction of the AST and how the progress it's being made. That's great news.
Very, very effective group. And again, we wanted to make sure it included every aspect of the agency and even some that weren't included in the recommendations from Public Works or NSK 12. Again, we're doing all this different to helping our Apple City District. As the commissioner said many times, we didn't just contract for work to be done and leave recommendations at the door. We're actively involved, and this group is very, very involved with helping them keep the goals that are set forward.
I'm sure they must appreciate, having, firsthand help right there, guiding them through all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Keith, for that work and the team that's working with Hartford. As Keith mentioned, as I've said, it is about sustainability. It's helping the district to really get its sea legs and have systems in place that would endure. Again, if you walk away and everything fall apart, then I feel we've not done the job. So that's what we're here to do. And I appreciate the staff really spending the time to do that. And I know that Mr. Harris said this earlier, but Keith, publicly thank you for taking on the extra work for Office of Internal Audit. That stays very busy amidst everything else that is happening. So thank you for that. All right, so we'll move on to the next update for you, which is Bridgeport. As I mentioned before, I know Dr. Hughes is not here, but Deputy Commissioner Cynthia Soriano will be providing that update, and the packet is that's in your packet as well.
Morning. The company here is today to give a brief overview on Bridgeport Public School action to address
district needs for December 2025 on behalf of Deputy Commissioner Hughes. On November 19th, 2025, the Connecticut State Department of Education, the Technical Assistance Unit Team, and Public Works met with the DPS interim superintendent and his executive cabinet to initiate the development of the 2026-27 superintendent's budget. Districts normally begin this process in the early fall. However, the outcome of the meeting included explicit steps for the superintendent and his team to engage school leadership in the design and development of the 26-27 budget as aligned with the students' learning needs. The meeting also addressed 9 of the 34 recommendations listed in the 2025 forensic audit of Bridgeport Public Schools published by Clifton Larson Allen regarding the budget development and transparency. The team in Public Works will continue to support BPS in the development of the 2026-27 budget in accordance with the City of Bridgeport and Bridgeport Board of Education timeline. Simultaneously, they will also assist the district to develop processes and procedures to develop future years' budget. That's the longest.
Morning. Also on November 19th, the representatives from the City of Bridgeport, along with the interim superintendent of BPS, Dr. Royce Beavers, presented at the Municipal Finance Advisory Commission to present their 5-year budget projection. The BPS documents have not been sent to the, or have been sent to the city, but not to MPAC in advance of the meeting. But Dr. Avery was able to provide an overview of the anticipated BPS budget deficit. At the committee meeting, MPAC did not accept the city's plan, and MPAC requested that the Merge City and BPS plan be submitted to include more realistic projections for health insurance premiums and explicit strategies of the city to ensure that the additional grants to aid for education will not be needed in future fiscal year.
Morning, everyone. An update on the special education activities. Back in early August, the Office of Child Advocate, Center for Connecticut Children's Advocacy submitted a systemic complaint regarding the provision of services to Bridgeport students. Through the course of that investigation, there were 4 students that were brought to our attention that were impacted by staffing vacancies. Through our investigation, we uncovered 49 additional similarly situated students who also were not receiving services due to vacancies. That resulted in corrective actions for the district, which we're monitoring on a monthly basis. That involves compensatory service plan. We are also as part of that investigation, there was a previous corrective action that had not been corrected by the district within 1 year. Because of that, it impacted the district's special education annual determination as needs intervention 1. What that means is that they were designated as a high-risk grantee for IDA funds. They continue to receive their IDA funds, but they need to address the issues for the corrective action plan. What that corrective action plan resulted in was money allocated for the chief of special education, which would oversee the service delivery for students who are impacted by vacancies as a primary contact with the State Department, as well as additional funding for stipends for teachers to be able to provide those additional services that the students have. In addition to that, there were some alignment with professional development activities. And finally, a special education specific position for chronic absenteeism to improve their data related to student engagement. Another issue within that complaint was related to students who are identified as needing special education services in pre-K. There was communication that some parents and families were told that they were waiting list before students could receive services. Prior to receiving this complaint, the CSD was aware of that issue and worked with the district to correct that issue last school year. And so that students have access to services now at once they turn 3 years. Finally, just a note of some special education activities related to professional development. This past summer, we were able to spend a good amount of time with Bridgeport administrators on IEP quality training at the beginning of the year. It was very well received. We're following up with that training. It was 3 different trainings across 6 states with the district. So it supports from the state of Florida. I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Good morning. My name is Kari Hunter, and I'm the Intelligence and Engagement Consultant at the State Department of Education. And I've been working with Bridgeport Public Schools on absence for many, many years. But I'm pleased to say when the Performance Office released their chronic absence later last month in November, we tend to look at year-to-year data. And for Bridgeport, last year in October, they were at 32% chronically absent. And this year they were at 22.6%. I would say that they're working very hard on this at both the district and the school level. They have strong district and school attendance teams that are representative of many diverse groups within the district, including health and special ed and administration. And so they've also created reports for schools that shows how each school is doing on chronic absence, and that is submitted to every principal so they can see how they're doing compared to others, and to create that a little competition to do. And the last thing is they're really working hard to implement their LEAP program this year. They put the former LEAP coordinator back in her position, and I'm seeing really strong home visits starting to happen there.
I was thrilled to see that the lead position was put back in, because that will just increase the percentage going up. But that's quite a success story for 10%. Still a long way to go, but that's quite a success story. And I'm glad that the lead is put back in there in that position. Brian, is there a person in Bridgeport that, like a lot of districts have an assistant superintendent or a director over special ed? Does that position exist in Bridgeport?
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yes.
And so the training that you do with the group, I'm assuming this individual is also part of that training.
Absolutely. And her cabinet of special education administrators, as well as general education administrators.
And serve alongside the technical assistance team. There's one specific piece of the training to support the special education brilliant with that extensive background, and we work in.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, with these, these complaints and the waiting list and all these, corrective things that were not corrected is concerning, obviously, but that's why I asked if there was an individual that oversees it. I'm glad to hear that there is. I know some districts had removed that or sort of banned it out to others. Probably not very there to do it. As to that, questions or comments from the board?
Morning. Thanks for your report. I first want to just compliment the visible degree to which the department and your teams have been in the Bridgeport school system. I have seen, as I shared with the commissioner, an uptick of the Bridgeport school district sharing on their social media the activities that are going on in the district relative to the department's support. And I actually used Deputy Commissioner Hughes that he made it on one of those posts. But it's quite evident the efforts and the hard work and the time that are that's going into everything for the district. My question, however, comes from the CAPE conference, in which a member of the Bridgeport Board of Ed delegation raised concerns about the appearance or perception that there was a lack of transparency or maybe lack of communication with board members about very specific things that were going on within the district. References were made to not being aware or privy to contracts that were being signed or other things. It was implied that board members perhaps felt that they should be more included in what was going on. So I was just wondering if you could comment to us about the degree to which the Board of Education is being engaged in the efforts that are going on.
Well, it depends specifically with public works, and CAPE as training. with the actual board in regards to what the roles and responsibilities are to clarify what gets brought to a board meeting, what gets issued. There's also an assistance team working with the city as well as the Board of Education reviewing the fiscal responsibilities, and also fiscal meeting with one of the specific board meetings as needed as well to verify. But they're really working directly with the interim superintendent, and support him in communicating as well. The priorities specifically related to the school issues.
So it would be,
Documents are.
it would be correct to say that board members are being engaged by the technical assistance team and with work. Thank you for verifying that. Yeah.
Commissioner has a standing meeting with the technical assistance team to make sure that she is.
Thank you for verifying.
And to add to that, and thank you for sharing that. We're just in the process of extending our contractual arrangement to CAPS with the technical assistance team. Public Works is there through, I think, June 30th. And we've now, the technical assistance team was supposed to end actually the end of this month. And I've extended that to also match the Public Works engagement to the end of the school year, basically, next year. So we're making sure that the support is there, and we'll talk more about my next steps in the superintendent search to update you on that. But that's really where we are. It's really scaffolded that level of support. So Public Works is there to support them. The technical assistance team is there moving forward. And as was mentioned, Dr. Hughes also communicates with the board chair as well with the work that needs to happen there. And they've got some work to do. You've heard it here. About policies and procedures and bylaws and things that needs to be in place. And so we continue to make sure that we're paying attention to that work with Kate as well. So I thank the team, what you've heard. The other really important piece, and Jessica talked about that, and I wanted you to be aware and publicly, that we've read it in the papers that somehow I have control of $5 million in bond funds that I'm not releasing, and which I had, but I don't have. That role, and a part of that comes through that work that has happened in the municipal, the finance meeting that they attended. That's where it all starts for releasing those funds. And as you heard, that did not happen, and they have to go back to them with information. We should make sure that the board gets the link to that meeting. It's public. It was on CTN. Laura, could you make sure that that happens? That they get that as well. So you can watch, it's about 30 minutes. And so you can see the interactions and the questions that were asked so that's available as well. But we're not walking away. That is deep work that we're doing, that level of engagement to support the district. And so I appreciate the team and the amount of work that's happening. And let me just lastly say, Kari's work, as you know, is not only in Bridgeport, it's statewide. And kudos to the work that she's been doing. As I announced, and you've probably seen out, is that our October chronic absence rate statewide is the best we've seen in the last 6 Octobers, looking back year over year. And so our districts are working really hard. We're using that data, Kari does, to see, where it is that we need to continue to lean in on and supporting our districts. Our families are working hard. I mean, just a lot of that it takes. We'll keep our fingers crossed for November's data. But it is so important. We know how critical attendance is for everything else that we're working on in the district. So Kari, thank you. And we embedded Kari in New Haven before when we had some issues. So Kari's now embedded in Bridgeport as well, supporting the work there. So I just want to thank the team. Thank you very much. Right, next presentation is an update from our Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities. I know we have some new board members. We wanted to make sure that you were informed of the work happening in that office that was specifically created to address this unique need of our learners and students with dyslexia.
Hi, everyone. So fantastic to be back again. We saw you this time last year. And
We are excited to introduce ourselves to those who are new and see those of you again who we saw this time last year. My name is Dr. Athena McElhenney. I'm an associate ed consultant in the office. I work with our educator preparation program providers, and I work with them on the verification of their compliance with related statutes related to the work of how we prepare teachers. We're going to talk today about our office in general. What are the numbers? We have slides for you to follow along with. Share a little bit of how our work touches across many different parts of teacher preparation through becoming a teacher and into professional learning and families and engagement. We're really excited to be able to share this information with you today. So as part of the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities, our work spans the gamut from getting to prepare teachers to working with families and communities.
I'm sorry, I just want board members to know that the deck is in their supplemental packet.
You may follow along right here. And the colors are very nice, so enjoy the colors. So we work with educator preparation providers, whether that be undergraduates saying, I want to be a teacher, or adults coming in and saying, I want to be a career changer, teaching is for me now, through to the induction program for new teachers, into ongoing professional learning for teachers who are in the buildings, and to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be able to successfully teach throughout their careers. And we work very closely with families and communities because early identification is so critical, and we need families to be able to have access to the information that they need in order to support their own children. Families often reach out to our office first, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But when they have questions and concerns, our office is often the first that they call. We are here to help ensure that every educator in Connecticut has the knowledge and skills they need to teach reading effectively, and that every family can access clear and consistent guidance when they need it. Lisa is going to explain a little bit more about all the things that we've accomplished since we were here last time in 2024. And take away these.
Thank you, Dina. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Gianni, associate consultant and co-ERD. My primary role is the lead for the competencies and for model in service training programs and professional learning. So building on the overview that Athena just shared, I'm just going to take a moment to share kind of a high-level look at several of the major accomplishments that have shaped our work this year. One milestone was the state board's adoption of the Connecticut Educator Competencies for Structured Literacy and Dyslexia back in May of this year. These competencies give us a statewide reference point, something educator preparation programs and educators can rely on as they work to strengthen literacy instruction. We've also made progress on the development of the model in service training programs. Our professional learning needs survey indicated that educators and districts were looking for clear, structured, evidence-aligned support. So these model training programs are designed to translate the competencies into just what they need, practical, high-quality professional learning. Districts will be able to use these training programs flexibly as they work to strengthen their literacy instruction and teacher prep knowledge. We anticipate a soft launch rollout in the fall of 2026. As you can see in the photos on this slide, we've been building strong statewide engagement this past year. Our dyslexia awareness events, the Rewired podcast we just recently started, our scientific research and practice advisory, and other family-centered initiatives are ways we stay connected to the field. These spaces help us hear directly from educators and families and connect our work so that it reflects what's working and where support is still needed. And finally, the EPT Competencies Collaborative has been created to help educator preparation programs understand the statewide literacy requirements outlined in legislation. This collaborative gives faculty an opportunity to engage with the competencies, learn, ask questions, collaborate, and begin preparing for the next phase of their education procedures. It's been a very helpful space for building shared understanding and consistency across institutions. So with that context, I'll have you go to the next slide and I'll share a little bit about what we've been hearing from the field and how we're responding.
As we carry out this work, one of the most important things that we do here in our office is listen to the field, and that continues to guide our approach. Under PA 1597, we work directly with families and LEAs, so we hear firsthand their questions, concerns, and what's going well. And across the board, the message is consistent. Families, districts, and educators want more clarity, more accessible resources, and more opportunities to understand dyslexia and structural literacy. Our inquiry data reinforces that. 66% of the questions we receive come directly from families, followed by districts, the VFC call center, CPAC, and other partners. That tells us how much families are seeking guidance and how important it is that information is easy to find and understand. To respond to this need, we launched CTDAC, which stands for Dyslexia Awareness Collaborative, our statewide Dyslexia Awareness Collaborative. And each month we host learning events under the theme, Know the Signs, Change the Story. These sessions focus on early language and literacy, screening, identification, and other key areas. We've seen great participation and strong community engagement at these events. We've also expanded our communication tools. We have an ODRD newsletter. We have our Rewired podcast. We have updates that we've been making to our website, and soon to come a competency webinar series currently in development, as well as several resource guides that are underway. All of this is about ensuring consistent research-aligned information across the state. On this slide, here you can also see some examples of this work in action. From the Connecticut Family School Partnership Conference, where we presented the Connecticut DAC Kickoff back in October, our library campaign throughout this year, and the Voices of Dyslexia initiative. These events give us a direct line to families and educators and remind us why this work matters. Overall, our message is we're listening, we're responding with concrete tools, community-centered events, ongoing support for families and districts across. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Rebecca.
One thing I do want to mention is that there are two folks who are not sitting up here with us, our amazing administrative assistant, Amy Godwin, and behind me. You cannot survive without her, as if you have an administrative assistant, you understand. And the other person is Kristen Allen. She is the third associate ed consultant of our group. She anchors our information and assistance. She very regrets that she's unable to join us, but she is watching on the live stream. So you are welcome to wave to her if you'd like to come over to her today. So this is our moving forward. We have a lot of exciting things happening. Our office is moving in a really great direction. And as we look ahead, our focus is creating a clear, coherent path for educators from preparation. And actually, Chancellor, when you were speaking, I was like, from before preparation, from when they are middle schoolers. And there are some amazing initiatives bringing high school students in to become teachers, and those pipeline pathways we work through now. So before they're even when they're in the pipeline to become future state students, through to, sorry, I lost my place because I just went off this, but I just wanted to give that a chance because I was thinking about from preparation through their first years in the classroom and then throughout all the professional learning that they'll have throughout their careers. We're working with colleagues across CSDE. I was thinking there's so many people in this room that we work with so much we couldn't do our work without. Part of our teacher induction program team is going to be redesigned and reimagined. Lisa's been working closely on that. Integrating the competencies into that redesigned induction modules will help ensure that our newest teachers have practical, evidence-oriented tools for teaching reading right from the start, from their educator preparation programs through their induction years. We're also getting ready for the next phase of compliance verification, as outlined in all of our statutes. And this is really careful work. It requires coordination with talent, with performance. Let's take a look at processes and procedures, ensuring they're clear and consistent and supportive of the student. Our priority is to build a system that provides clarity and maintains integrity of our statutory requirements. And finally, all of this work depends on strong collaboration. I was thinking, we have so many collaboratives. I think that says a lot about the work of our office. It takes partnership with our faculty members in our education preparation programs, with school districts and families and communities. Moving forward together means continuing to listen and to communicate clearly,
and to provide the tools and guidance that educators and families need to support students effectively. We'll end with this. We are really committed to a statewide system that is strong, transparent, and centered on children's learning. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your continued support and Commissioner the opportunity to speak today. We appreciate the opportunity to provide this update, and we look forward to advancing the work together. And Dr. Tucker would like to also say something as she's using her microphone.
Thank you, Lisa and Athena and Kristen, who's joining us virtually. As part of the work that the office has been doing, we have partnered with the New Education Policy Center, and they have started to conduct an external evaluation of our dyslexia guidance, our resources, and our tools. And the initial findings of that evaluation is that the work of the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disability has very strong overall alignment to national frameworks and best practices. So we're on point, we're on target with the work that we are doing within the office, and a formal report will follow very soon from the policy center.
Thank you for this update. What the 66% of increase coming from families, I would never have guessed it that high, but it's just so nice to see all the programs, these wonderful programs that you do are aligned with families, because I know how important that is. So thank you for this update and the work you do. This is terrific to see all these. I wasn't aware of all these programs. 66%, that's something. I would have thought more came from districts.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Thank you so much for your presentation. One question I had specifically was about the statewide structured literacy and dyslexia competencies. So you mentioned it, but I also was reading online about the early identification and intervention strategies. So I was wondering, despite it being implemented very recently, have you seen any quantitative or qualitative updates so far, or improvements regarding the identification?
It's a little soon, but yes, to see any kind of impact data, but we will definitely come back.
Yeah, I know. It was,
But yeah.
Thank you.
We do appreciate the question though, and that is what we're looking.
Thank you very much for the update for the board. Next on deck is making sure the board has some information on licensure and certification. As I know that you will continue to hear from the certification board, and indeed provides information to them as well. I want to make sure that this board, the full state board, is updated on key pieces of information that is also shared with the certification board. So Ajit will take us through that.
Thank you, Commissioner. One board members. So yes, as the Commissioner mentioned, we are called upon by the certification board to provide them with frequent updates. In fact, I'm doing one on Monday, some of which is actually part of our, we're getting the early view of the information before we present it to them. So I have two presentations or two pieces that I'm sharing with you. One is on how educators first become certified in Connecticut and the different pathways and how many and what percentage are coming in through each pathway. And then how many of them actually end up getting employed in Connecticut. So we're sort of looking at how they're becoming certified, but then are they ending up, you see that turnover in that translation into actual employment in Connecticut. This was a question from the certification board for which we had to conduct a custom analysis. It took a little bit, but we've synthesized it. This piece has already been shared with the certification board, but I'm sharing with you here now. And you know, for this work, any type of talent work, I work very closely with the staff in the talent office. We analyze the data part of it, but Lauren Tafredi, Julianne Frost, Kaylin Ricciardi are kind of the working closely with my staff, Dave Alexandro, and others to sort of work this through. So educators become certified in Connecticut through multiple pathways. And obviously educator preparation program, going through a formal program is one of those approaches. And the formal program includes alternate to certification, such as the residency program that you heard. We also have different types, other than going through a Connecticut educator preparation program, we have some other ways in which folks get certified as well. Or demonstrate that they have the skills to get certified. So let's go through them real quickly so that you understand like what's in each. I already mentioned the EPPs, and these are both public and private. These are approved by the board here, and they include traditional and alternate, and programs cater to candidate career focus, schedule, budget. I mean, there are different pathways here, and I've included a brief sort of snapshot of what's on our website, and this stuff is all published information. The second way, if you will, path is enhanced reciprocity, and this is relatively new for us through the pandemic, or really after the pandemic. We started it in April 2022. With 13 states, jurisdictions, and the town office has done an incredible job of expanding it to add 10 additional ones as of March. I'm not sure if there's any more, but I've listed those states there. So essentially what this allows for is if a person is certified in that state by that state entity, they can get the corresponding certification in Connecticut because we trust their process, their method, essentially. I can tell you that from personal experience from my daughter who's into this world, when she had to go to another state, a neighboring state, she had to end up having to take their entrance exam, even though she finished a UConn program. So Connecticut is not like that with that particular state. So we actually work seamless with them. They may make our folks jump through some.
But that's really important information to know in this, because there's also fiction around some of that there, and that the enhanced reciprocity, for which last month, I think, or the month before, I gave you an infographic on the numbers that we're seeing there. But that is something that I think it's important for folks to understand, because it always comes at us that we try to keep folks out while you've given us.
I think I think there's been some really good stuff happen in recent years in terms of expanding options, and this particularly is and you'll see the data on this. The next two options are what was what you can think of as the legacy reciprocity approach, if you will. And this is through this NASDAQ interstate agreement that allows for sort of recognition, review of transcripts, looking at other educator preparation programs in other states, or minimum credits, and it requires more verification, more sort of process. So this would work for states where we don't have enhanced reciprocity. So that would be, because if you have enhanced reciprocity and you're certified, to streamline you, but this would be where we don't have that. Or somebody finishes a program in a state where we have enhanced reciprocity, but they never got certified in the state. That could also happen. Last one is transcript experience. And this is really for educators who have taught in approved or accredited private non-public schools. And they can apply for certification based on experience. And there is a process for this. And interestingly, Public Act 24-41 a year ago actually removed this option. And I know there is a move afoot to actually get that back. We made the point in our testimonies and communication not to do this, but they did it anyway without realizing it. So we're advocating for, yeah, exactly. So so I think there's work afoot to get this back on the docket in the legislature. So the data piece, I'm going to share a few charts. Important to remember that educators can be endorsed to teach particular areas. You know, a teacher is certified, but they could be endorsed to teach multiple subject areas. And sometimes they come, each of those subject areas, they could come in through a slightly different pathway. Doesn't mean they all come through one pathway. So when we're doing an analysis, we have to say, okay, we're looking at the first time they entered Connecticut. So please remember that's an assumption or a rule that we've had to apply in this analysis. And then we went with that earliest certification endorsement date. What was the first endorsement they got in Connecticut? And then what was the pathway they came in? So this is giving you trend up to 23, 24. We will add other years as we go through, but I think the trend is pretty evident. And the 5 pathways are listed here. The biggest chunk is our Connecticut EPP. The green one is the NASDAQ. And you'll notice that enhanced reciprocity does not exist in those years, because this starts in 2016-17 and then goes up to 23-20. The orange is the enhanced reciprocity. And you can see how that's grown in recent years. With, you know, over 800 now in 23-24, and I'm sure we have updated data here, but just to give you a sense of that scale, and notice that the green size shrinks, right? Essentially what we're doing is we're streamlining individuals who had to go through far more hoops to get certified in Connecticut by having them go through enhanced reciprocity. And so the green side, the green part, the NASDAQ approach is still there, but enhanced reciprocity has really made it much easier. And as that's happened, notice the share of the Connecticut EPP has shrunk to below 50%, right? So you see, this is kind of a normalized chart to 100%. So you see that the EPP piece is down. It's still around 1,300, 1,400 individuals who get certified after completing Connecticut EPPs a year, but the reciprocity piece is much bigger in recent years. The experience transcript piece is still there, as is the the NASDAQ piece around the NASDAQ experience. So the green and that light blue teal color represent together the NASDAQ program and NASDAQ experience. Again, enhanced reciprocity is sort of driving that chart. So I think I've mentioned a majority of these points. And I think a point to make about Connecticut EPPs is that sometimes their enrollment will vary, and you'll see, especially in the COVID years, you know, personal choices, program capacity, program completion rate. Sometimes people start but end up not finishing the program, so they have candidates enrolled, but they don't actually finish. And you notice that the Connecticut EPP share went below 50%, and that the NASDAQ piece shrunk, but overall, the average number of individuals who were certified annually based on certification in another state, so that includes sort of enhanced reciprocity and the NASDAQ pathways, has increased by 33% from 5 years prior to the introduction of enhanced reciprocity to at the 3 years after. So on average, 5 years prior to 3 years after introduction of enhanced reciprocity, there's a 33% increase in how many educators are coming into our state through sort of, being prepared in another state. So I think that's kind of the general takeaway. The next data chart I want to show is the percentage of those individuals who are prepared through one of those, who get certified through one of those pathways, who then actually show up in Connecticut public school districts and actually are ever employed subsequent to their finishing their pathway, whatever their pathway is. Reciprocity, NASDAQ, experience, transcript, private school, whatever. And you'll see that if you go to a Connecticut EPP, the likelihood of then getting employed is significantly greater than some of those other pathways. And that kind of makes sense too, right? Because if you go to a Connecticut Ed Prep program, you're getting student teaching, you're getting internships. There's a lot more connection throughout your program with the school district. So you kind of like, and the school districts are familiar with our Connecticut EPPs as well. So you see that But less so with the other pathways. And I know we're working continually to try to sort of turn those certifications into employment, but sometimes it may be beyond our factor, if you will. When we say enhance any of these reciprocity approaches, I often discuss with the commissioner how it's not like people are, there are some who lift the, move bag and baggage over to Connecticut, but often it's people who are here already, who may have a certification somewhere else, who are now sort of turnkeying that, right? So I think that, or it's a neighboring state, they're just living in Massachusetts or in New York, and they're able to actually teach in Connecticut while continuing to live wherever they live. So I think it is understandable that those pathways do turn, have a lower sort of result in employment rate. All right, I think the next slide basically summarizes those points. So that's kind of how actually folks get certified in Connecticut. I'll pause here before I launch into the next piece, which is a slightly different topic. Are there any questions about this piece about folks getting certified in Connecticut, first certified?
Completely causal happened between 22, 23 and 23, 24 in terms of the enhanced recipe option, all orange. Because orange is pretty steady, and then all of a sudden there was a huge.
I think it's just the number of look forward years. No, I don't think so. I think it's just the number of look forward years we have. So we're looking at ever employed, right? So when we look at 23, 24, they only have a year.
Not continually.
Right. Well, we don't have as many years. Whereas if you were in 22, 23, we look forward 2 years. Did they show up in 23, 24 or 24, 25? Here we only have 1 more year to look to. So I think that number will pick up to sort of the prior levels for any type of reciprocity. I just think it's more a matter of timing.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you for explaining.
I think that's all that is. I mean, the EPPs tend to maintain a higher level because those students, obviously go to school in Connecticut for years and have those connections. So that sort of employment thing stays true for EPP.
And I guess my follow-up question related to retention. This is were they ever employed in Connecticut, but do we have any data and
we do
of which of these pathways helps us to retain people in the classroom?
Yeah, we do. That gets a little noisier when you start to look even forward in terms of factors, whether we can still continue to attribute that retention back to how they prepared, because lots of other factors come into play, working conditions, pay, life situations, blah, blah, blah. So we looked at it, it got really noisy, and I didn't think like we could. So we will take a look, but it gets harder to make the attribution back to the EPP. It's like saying college graduation, attributing it back to the high school as the accountability measure. We kind of say like.
I guess maybe I'm more interested in light of the comments that were made during public forum, that when you have job embedded training, or you happen to be in an EPP and doing your student teaching that more closely resembles the district in which you then become employed, or are more likely prepared to stay in that. So your point about working conditions is a huge factor in teacher retention. And my personal and anecdotal experience in a school and working with people that come in through various pathways is that sometimes when people are coming in through enhanced reciprocity or alternate routes that didn't originate in Connecticut, their understanding of what schools look like from somewhere else does not align with what our schools are like and what our student populations are like here. And then there's more likely a turnover rate. So I was just curious how to suss that out, because I am persuaded by the idea of residency programs and having much more apprenticeship type things in terms of longevity of staying in the profession.
I think that's a fair point. I would think that sussing that out is probably not going to be possible just with quantitative data alone. I think we need some more thought into how we model that here. because even different EPPs work a little differently. I mean, residency is one, but even with traditional EPPs, 5-year programs versus 4-year programs versus student teaching versus internships that follow, so I think it would be worth spending some more time into looking at the actual preparation models and teasing that out a little more before just running like with this kind of layout, doing that analysis. I feel like it requires more thought and probably some qualitative feedback from the candidates and the employers themselves, which we don't have here. We're just giving you sort of broad trends. So I think that may be doable, but I think it would be like, I would want to sort of give some more thought to it.
The data that's collected through team about their EPPs in any way like merged with this type of data. So like, so because that might be another interesting way to look at it. I mean, one way is I've always assumed that those questions were there because there was a long-term plan to revise the team process, which I know is an undergoing thing right now. But I'm also curious if those particular questions that are asked of our people in the induction program somehow also work backwards to answering that issue.
I'm asking my colleague to for that.
As part of the reimagination of teams, we are meeting with advisory groups and we are collecting that type of data for the redesign for fall 27. And to your previous question, we're still very new in the process, but we are starting to collect initial data on the apprenticeship programs and the apprenticeship model for students that are placed in.
They're very interesting questions that the beginning educators have to answer every single time they do a module. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could, very interested and appreciative of the number of states who have bought into the enhanced reciprocity. But beyond Pennsylvania, I see Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. Is there any pushback coming from the West Coast or the Midwest? Increasing our possibilities?
I can answer that, Mr. Harris. When we started this process, we partnered with West Ed, and West Ed does a very thorough analysis, state by state, of each state that we are seeking enhanced reciprocity with. We look at the comparison of the quality of their certification system and qualifications to become an educator compared to Connecticut's qualifications and criteria. So when we started the first time, it was Northeast enhanced reciprocity. So we started on the Northeastern corridor and went as far down as Virginia, including DC and Puerto Rico. The second phase of that expansion, we went to the Midwest and we went further south. So that's why you see the more southern states, because we also looked at where were people coming to that were transferring or moving to Connecticut and an interest in doing it. So that was the rationale for moving partially to the Midwest and further down south. If we had additional funding, I'm ready to move to the process and continue to work with West End because we already had a plan in place, but we just don't have funding to support it. We would like to move further out to the west. We've had a request for California, Colorado. We're looking at those states. So if I get some coins, then we will move forward with phase 3 of enhanced reciprocity.
And Mr. Gopalakrishnan and Dr. Tucker, I guess from a higher ed perspective and perspective, any correlation with the teacher demand, the teacher shortage that we're experiencing here, that can lend itself on our end of education spectrum in terms of what more we can do in higher ed?
I would say several things. One, we want to expand the teacher residency apprenticeship program beyond teachers. We're looking at expanding that for parents and for special education, if we can, because we want to address those shortage areas. We're in early conversations with the deputy commissioner and with my colleague from special ed on how we can now develop a para special ed pathway. We've had conversations with the Department of Labor, who is in support of my para pathway, because we see that as the entry point for those persons who want to then not only become paras, but then move into the special ed area. We've been working with one of our partners with Teach with STEM, because that is another area that we are trying to expand in. They have put money on the table to offer scholarships to our students who are in the pathway, in addition to the Aspiring Educator Scholarship that we offer annually for those students graduating from. And I will say that we work very closely with Dr. Ainsley Diamond in your office, and she sits on one of our boards. And so we keep her in the loop. She offers suggestions, and we're very pleased also. And I think we'll start to see the results with more of the alignment. Now that our students can graduate, they can graduate with up to 9 credit hours in education that are transferable to a community college and into the EPP. So we're going to start to see a change in that because it will reduce the students' time in their programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question with the possibly the states. What's the balance? Are we having people going to other states versus coming here? Are we losing or are we gaining?
I don't know if we have, I mean, I presented last month, 2 months ago about attrition rates, just at a larger level, just to show the level of attrition. It's hard to know, like, we don't know when somebody is employed in another state. So we're only able to show, you know, what is the extent of, you know, completers and EPPs and so on. But so we don't really know how many are actually going and teaching somewhere else. So yeah, I don't have that data. I just think it's really encouraging to see these big increases with once we put enhanced reciprocity. I mean, that much we do know, but we don't know if folks are picking up and going somewhere else. I know of one.
I know I'm sorry.
Dr. Carlson.
Wouldn't that data be available though? As a state, we know where people are coming from, and the states not share that data.
No. It's not readily. We've talked about it, but not actually.
I think that would be helpful.
There have been interstate discussions and things like that, but nothing has really materialized. We can do it on the we're just beginning to do it on the labor front, like strict wages, earnings kind of thing. So maybe as part of, like, through the Department of Labor, there is a interstate exchange, but that's currently limited to particular purposes for federal reporting type situations. So not for research and inquiry type stuff. So we don't have that.
Well, it is there, it's just not expensive.
Right, I'm sure, I mean, it's knowable. It is a knowable thing, but not with the current structures.
And I just want to say that I'm sensitive to time, so I'm trying to move us along here. That this board approved last month, Jessica, but the budget expansion request. And it was $3 million that we've asked for, and a part of that was on the teacher registered apprenticeship program and building out a para pathway. As a part of that you approved, that we made the request for OPM for the coins that Dr. Tucker was asking about. So Ajit, if you can.
Yeah, I'll do a quick wrap up of the next topic, Praxis Bridge. So this has to do with getting licensed in Connecticut, and what regardless of which EBP you go through, you have to pass the appropriate subject area Praxis 2 exam
in Connecticut. I mean, there's a little more nuance to it, but Praxis 2 is like the main one. And there was legislation some years ago, and we did a report talking about looking at alternatives, alternative methods, if you will, that multiple measures, I think was the language. So one of the ways that several states, Massachusetts being one, looks at this is anytime somebody takes a standardized test, any standardized test really, there are sort of, think of it as measurement errors, errors like, because we don't have a precise, we have a score, but it always comes with a little uncertainty. And that uncertainty is called a standard error of measurement. And so one of the sort of approaches that some of the states and Connecticut is using is to say, are there individuals who are within one standard error of measurement of the passing score? In other words, they've come close to passing, but not quite reached that threshold. And could we target that group of individuals and do something with them to get them over the finish line? And that's essentially what we worked with ETS on. ETS is the one that makes Praxis. And we worked with their psychometric team and their development team to come up with this thing called the Praxis Bridge. It became available a little over a year ago. There's not a cost to Connecticut folks because they're eligible for free retakes, and this bridge becomes part of that. And so what exactly is the bridge? It's a learning module. So for those who are in that cusp, if you will, instead of retaking the entire test, they actually go through a targeted learning module for them. ETS actually analyzes the results of the Praxis 2 and determines sort of the one or two areas where they were lowest within that particular task. So if it's math, they might say, okay, maybe the weakness is in geometry or maybe statistics or whatever it might be. I don't know all the particular domains, but imagine sort of them sort of honing in a little bit and then having a self-study, asynchronous self-study module with some knowledge checks built in. That is mastery based, meaning that the student has infinite bites at the apple within a 6-month window or something. So that it's not like they can't leave it open for years, but if once they are in that cusp, they get notified and they have a few months to sort of go in and finish that self-study module. And if they do that successfully, then they are deemed as alt pass. They're coded as alt pass, but essentially they are passed. They're deemed as passing the test, and they can seek Connecticut certification. So that's essentially what this bridge is. It's sort of targeting those individuals in the cusp, and eligible candidates get notified about it, and they can then fill out a simple form, get a free voucher, and on to finishing it. So that's essentially what the bridge is, and it provides specific feedback. There are practice items, and they get the certificate of completion when they finish. I put a screenshot for what that interface looks like. For the cert board on Monday, we're going to go through a little bit more detail on the screens and so on. In the communication, we didn't want to necessarily bore you with some of those details, but just know that that's what this is. And the candidate feedback has been terrific, actually. And I put a few comments in there. And there's more in here, but just to give you that, they actually saw that connection to the areas where they needed help. And they felt like this was a much less stressed way because instead of retaking the entire test, given that they're almost passed, and that they found the learning helpful, this sort of module helpful. And so the last piece I wanted to give you was obviously some data. And the first 4 items on that list, the elementary ed, and those are, I didn't list the particular subjects, but you can, there are the 4 subjects, English, math, science, and social studies in those elementary subject areas. And those were launched in November of last year. And most of the remaining ones were just launched like a little over a month ago. So they're relatively new. So you see some of the smaller numbers there. So essentially what you see is like, there are about 2,000 of the tests that are bridge eligible. about close to 700 of them have taken advantage already, signed up for it. And if they sign up, the completion rates are really high. And I should just qualify. So I think, we still have more work to do in terms of reaching out to those who are bridge eligible, encouraging them to finish and complete and pass. So ETS has, there's a lot more work going on in terms of that communication, that outreach. But I think there's one point I should have said maybe at the preface of this, that the Praxis 2 pass rates for those who complete our EPPs is very high. So it's already at like 90%. Even for candidates of color, it's mid 80s. So it's not like we are at 40% for those who complete EPP. If you complete an EPP, you're very highly likely to pass the Praxis. But this allows those who are in the cusp to also get over the finish line. So I think that's an important piece of this one. So hopefully this was helpful. And Commissioner, I'll take any questions or turn it back.
That's most helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that you're aware, again, interfacing with the certification board, if they're having this information and things come to you anyway that you have to make decisions on, that it's really important that you have this background and information. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tucker.
I mean, for the certification people, we're recruiting. There are a mechanism for which we can look at get certification, find out the ones who are not actually working here. Where are they? Are they available? Are they interested?
So we obviously know the universe of individuals who are certified, and we know who's working. So in EdSite Secure, which is our secure platform, we actually give all districts and all users, and we have over 4,000 users in our schools and districts, a list of the entire certification database by the certification code, so that they can search to see who's English, math, whatever certified. And they can also filter that list for those who are working and not working. And then they can target, when they do communication, they can target messages to those individuals. So for those of you with Connecticut certification. Yep. I get emails all the time. So they know
to answer one of them.
The email for the individual in there, so that those targeted notifications can go out to those individuals. So yeah, that was a resource actually when Dr. Barzi was here. We rolled that out as a resource to districts.
And I remember at one point in time, there was an actual event where those folks were brought together in one place with districts so that they could, I call them dated, so they could do that connection even personally, where they could speed date around that. But a lot happening, but thank you for that question. And I again wanted the board to have the full knowledge of all the work that is happening in this space. So I thank you very much. The last update, John Fasanelli is just going to quickly, and I said quickly, talk about the school safety, to provide you with a brief school safety update. Since the G use most of your time.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This will be brief. My name is John Bresley. I'm the Director of the Student Support Services here at the department. Thank you for having me here today. Just a quick update, as way of a reminder, the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, specifically the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, is the lead agency responsible for school safety. They are responsible for being the recipient of the school security and safety plans. They also issue grants to school districts around school safety and security. They have just onboarded a whole team that's working on school safety and security in their agency for the first time. They have a new director. They have a couple of staff that we work very closely with. By way of a couple of updates, in October, they provided a Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention statewide summit at the Capitol. Sounds scary, but it was really about prevention in all areas, and a large part of the discussion had to do around violence prevention in schools. I can tell you that I attended, and it was very well attended by school staff. There were over half of the audience was either superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, or folks responsible for school security. So we are looking with the Department of Emergency Services on what to do as a follow-up. So the Department of Emergency Services has 7 regional offices, and they sort of control and work with the districts, the school districts, and the municipalities in those regions. So we're looking at the possibility of doing some training, some tabletop exercises, and some assistance in each region, as well as the potential for a statewide summit of all regions and both agencies during the summertime for school staff to participate, to really work on enhancing their school security and safety plans. The Department of Emergency Services is actually announcing some monthly office hours. They're going to start on December 17th. This is for school staff to be able to call in at a specific time. They're having 3 separate times. They have morning hour for superintendents to call in, and they have a second hour for school principals and assistant principals and those who are managing school buildings. And then they actually have a time in the afternoon for teachers and other staff. So each have their separate times. They can ask all kinds of questions. There will be topics of discussion around school safety, including resources, training that's available, any and all questions around safety and security. And then finally, we're working with DESP to ensure that all security and safety plans are received by DESP. Those were due on November 1st. We're continuing to work with those. Just one comment on those. When we think about the school safety and security plans, our mind immediately goes to violence prevention, but those are called all hazards plans. So those plans include everything from certainly school safety, fortifying the exterior, but they also talk about addressing what we call behavioral threats, addressing mental health needs of students in schools. It's everything from chemical spills to fire drills and crisis drills and community actions that need to require a lockdown in the school that's unrelated to something happening in the school. So all that to say that they cover all hazards. It also has a new requirement that the districts include a protocol for when immigrations and customs enforcement come to their school. So that's just a brief overview of where we are. We're continuing to work with them and other state agencies that are involved, as well as work closely with the Center for School Safety and Crisis Prevention at WestCon. They're a big partner in this work, as well as other state agencies.
And yeah, that's
Go ahead, Ms. Becker.
I love the idea of the office hours you just mentioned. I think that's fantastic. Specific to the ones that are available for teachers, I know that the new laws that went into effect for this school year require that every building's climate safety committee has a teacher that's appointed by their local union to serve on that committee. I want to make sure that information about those office hours will be communicated directly to teachers, as opposed to assuming that if you send it to central office, teachers get that information, because that generally does not happen. And I think that teachers across the state who are serving as their union's representative on those building-wide committees would probably be really interested in attending those office hours, but we're also probably the least likely people to get that direct communication.
What a key piece of information, because I also question sometimes when I want information go directly in the hands of our educators. So we should talk about what do we set up to make sure that that is indeed occurring, but that makes perfect sense. I also so appreciate, and you saw Commissioner Higgins came to our back to school event. This is the best close relationship that we literally have with DESP. And their focus on school safety and security, which is really great. And so when he came to my advisory panel meeting, it was asking for feedback from superintendents in this space as well. So, and our teams work very closely with them. So it's great.
John, I know I brought this up to you before, but is there any further discussion with Dr. Higgins and his team about AEDs into the schools and being part of that plan?
I don't believe they're part of the plan, but I have had discussions with the Department of Public Health, who has the unit that's responsible for AEDs in school buildings. There was a law passed several years ago to require AEDs in municipal buildings, which would include schools. Did have an out if there was no money to support it. And I've talked to DPH about the possibility of creating a grant program to support that. There was some legislation last session that didn't pass to make that a requirement, but I don't believe it did not pass.
I hope they look into it to up on Ms. Records' comment. I think you're going to hear from teachers because there are, as I told you, I attended a couple of times now in a heartbeat, which supplies AEDs to different schools. But the biggest piece is having someone in charge of that AED. And it just amazes me every single time I go, there's always students that they have come forward that heart defects were discovered. And when they do these labs in the school, I mean, they're important also for our sports fields and so forth, but that sort of falls under a different jurisdiction. I mean, they have to have those when they're out in the field, I believe, or they have to be near there. But the problem is the person that is going to be in charge of it. And I hope they look into that more because you hate to see something like that go undetected. And I think you'd get, if it was put out to the educators, I think you'd get it. But I just don't have a feeling you're going to hear from some educators because I know I still do. Why aren't they? Why aren't they in the school? Why isn't somebody in charge of them?
There's a component in the school security and safety plans that requires protocols for athletic events at school. The other crucial piece about having the AEDs in school is now that Narcan, the opioid antagonist, is now over the counter. It's a perfect place to put that. In that cabinet with AED, put that nasal spray right in there. So you can announce that to the school and everybody knows that those are two life-saving devices in one.
I hope Dr. Higgins and his team starts looking at that more carefully. And then funding is there. I know it's a funding issue, but hopefully we'll get there, our kids in our schools. Dr. Levis?
Thank you for this information. I just have a question on parental involved in the discussion of school safety. I know as a high school principal, I used to get information from parents in the community, and I was the one going into this and telling there's going to be an issue in the community because they used to be more involved with the school than anything else. So I was just wondering, how do you get the parents involved, that part of the process?
So the parents have to be part of both the district level school security and safety team as well as the school level. So each school has to have their own plan. It can be a piece of the district plan or it can be a separate plan. The parents have to be part of that, and districts within some confines for not letting too much information out to the public. Parents are involved in that there is a plan in place and that the teachers have been trained and that school staff have been trained and that they've coordinated with their emergency preparedness folks in the municipality, right? Because we can't share too much information because if it falls in the wrong hands, then someone has an insight.
But as long as that's consistently done and communication goes out to parents, just like with teachers.
Thank you very much and appreciate your interest and certainly the partnership of the team supporting our districts. One of our key strategic priority areas is ensure safe and healthy learning environments and to make sure that happens. Lengthy, but
a very informative report. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8A, the adoption of the Connecticut English Learning Multilingual Statewide Framework. Stacy and her. Is it just Irene? Is it just you? Oh, they're there. Present to us.
That's a motion.
Oh, I need a motion. That's moved. Second.
And thank you, Commissioner, Vice Chair Benham, board members. With me this morning is Dr. Megan Flick, our education consultant in bilingual and LML education, and Dr. Maribel Oliveira, our director of equity and languages, both from the academic office. Before you is the Connecticut English Learner Multilingual Learner Framework. This framework was presented to the Legislation and Policy Development Committee on September 3rd, 2025. And we appreciate the committee members' recommendations and the suggestions, which we have taken into consideration in the development of this final framework for you. The purpose of this framework is to support successful implementation of bilingual or English as a second language programs in Connecticut. We anticipate that this will be extremely useful, a useful resource for district leaders. This is amplified by the theory of action that can be found on page 2 of the framework.
I do want to point out that careful attention was given to the structure of this document to ensure usability by those key roles that are highlighted in the document. I commend both Megan and Maribel for their work making this practical, usable framework available to our colleagues across the state. The executive summary further outlines the development and next steps, and at this point, I'd like to invite Megan and Maribel to share some key highlights.
Thank you. Good morning. I am thrilled to be here today to present to you the Connected English Learner and Multilingual Learner Framework. This framework reflects our collective commitment to supporting the success of English learners, multilingual learners across the state. These students are a highly capable, diverse, and expanding group of individuals with a wide range of languages, cultural backgrounds, and educational experiences. And the framework guides stakeholders in fostering shared responsibility and ensuring equitable access to high-quality instruction for them. The framework was developed through a comprehensive two-phase process. Phase 1 began in late 2021 with the CSDE convening a work group of stakeholders that initiated this work. In 2023, the CSDE began Phase 2 of this project, aligning the draft framework with the new State Board Comprehensive Plan and expanding stakeholder engagement. The CSDE partnered with the Region 2 Comprehensive Center to support this phase of the work. The framework is organized around 4 key principles that underlie our collective work for English learners, multilingual learners, through an assets-oriented lens. The 4 principles are skilled educators, evidence-based practices, family and community engagement, and continuous improvement. The document identifies key action steps that can be taken for each principle in order to support the success of English learners and multilingual learners. Within the framework, key roles have also been identified, which reflect professionals in various positions that have shared responsibility in supporting the success of these students. My colleague, Dr. Maribel Rivera, will briefly describe these roles and next steps for the framework.
The 4 key roles guide how we collectively support ELs and ELs across Connecticut. As we developed the framework, the team was intentional about broadly defining these roles. Our goal was to reflect the full range of professionals who contribute to a student's educational experience and acknowledge that ELs and MELs are not solely the responsibility of ESL or bilingual specialists, but rather all educators. These key roles are classroom educators, school leaders, district leaders, and state leadership. And these key roles also serve an important purpose since they help reinforce a shared mindset, one that recognizes the population of learners as capable, resourceful, and full of potential. The framework's principles and roles work together to promote an assets-oriented approach to multilingualism. This means we are centering the cultural and linguistic strengths that students bring to their classrooms and communities. Upon adoption, we will share the framework statewide in print and digital formats and host resources on a dedicated CSDE webpage. In addition, we will offer statewide information sessions, professional learning, and technical assistance to support district implementation. Furthermore, we plan to create regional cohorts and communication channels to provide ongoing updates and collaboration. We look forward to working collaboratively to bring this ELML statewide framework to life and to ensure that every English learner and multilingual learner in Connecticut is supported, celebrated, and set up for success. Well, at this time, we welcome any questions.
I just want the board to know that this came from in front of academic and standards, and the amount of back work in this was unbelievable. It really was. And I know the people on the committee know that, but the amount of people that you brought in to the state to work on this was just amazing. So we really appreciate it. And thank you all for your work with this. I'm sure the state is waiting to be good it is. So any comments or questions? Dr. Lavis.
I just want to say thank you for this work. Just
Yeah, I was on the committee and I reviewed it and it's very informative. And what I like when you said there was a document, I said, oh no, another document. And, but then when I continue reading and we're having the conversation, you connected everything that's already in place, like the CLEL standards to this. And you connected the standards and what good literacy looks like, the role of each member in the district. And I thought that was very, very good. And I thank you for this work because it's something now that people could use. It's not like teachers saying, oh gosh, something else. It's something that they could really, really do. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for the state providing the technical support. I think that they may not have the wherewithal. Great for that. And I know that this is a resource, so it's voluntary. They don't have to do it. I guess my follow-up question to that statement is, if there were ever planning where it was a failing program, would this be able to be as a guideline? I mean, kind of making it almost mandatory.
So we often get phone calls already. That's not unique just because of this. And we lean on all of the resources that we do provide. Sometimes people do need reminders that this exists. And so we coach through it. And that's what Megan and Maribel do often. And sometimes the commissioner has to do that work as well. So what I'm sharing is that by having a strong framework like this and coaching through it and seeing how important it is to actually, you know, maybe we do need to evaluate our program locally. Maybe we do need to use it in a different way. So I would think that's how the plan is, what we need to.
I think by saying that and then saying, and we would provide this. One more question, is health special education. And I guess I would read through it. I'm trying to figure out, this is the framework. The question I have is, do we know if special education identification is greater or lesser in the LML population compared to general? The reason I ask that is, if it's significantly over or under, I'm concerned about diagnosis of special needs versus language. Work in schools, there was a large population, and it's not their first language, they were learning. And I always want to make sure that we're getting to what it is language. Or is there a learning need? Because I think in the past, a lot of people were confused. A lot of students had English as a second language. I felt not diagnosed, but they're learning disabilities, and vice versa. So I just want to know: do we know is the special education identified population high?
So generally speaking, statewide, if we're talking about students with disabilities exclusively, that population of students is larger than the ELML population. If we're talking about dually identified students, those are students who are students with disabilities and are ELML identified students. Your question is absolutely something that is being grappled with in districts, in our state, and nationally. And that really has led to enhanced collaboration from special education, that side of the house, if you will, the experts in our special education area, and the ELML experts. It's really critical that we have those voices at the table to ensure that we are considering all aspects of a child when making an identification. So one very affirmative action that we can take to support a student that may be an EL/ML student that is being evaluated and considered for special education needs is to ensure that somebody with expertise on that EL/ML area is at that table and can reflect that student's needs. Not only, of course, having the family as well. From the perspective of the framework, it's our goal that by identifying these 4 key roles, we have built in actions through the indicators that can enhance the collaborative structures that will better address the issues that lead to the challenges that you're addressing.
Just want to thank the team, as always, for the work that I know they worked very hard at this, and appreciate the policy committee having reviewed it. And so I'd say on behalf of the 57,533 students who are EL and MLs in the state, thank you very much for that work and look forward to the implementation.
I want to thank you, Commissioner, for your leadership, because we started this conversation a long time ago when we started to develop this. So you've been with us every step of the way, and we really appreciate your support, nudging our thinking and supporting your leadership to get us to this point today.
So we're ready to vote to adopt the Connecticut English Learner and Multilingual Learner Framework. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations on 4 long years plus of work on this. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, a motion on item 8B, the adoption of the State Board of Education Committee appointment of Dr. Carlson. I wonder why, Mr. Harris.
Everybody's excited.
Resolved that the State Board of Education pursuant to Article 2, Section 4 of its bylaws approves the following assignment to the State Board of Education standing committees and appoints Andrew J. Carlson to serve on the Finance, Audit and Budget Committee and directs the Commission to take the necessary action. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Carlson.
They're quite happy, Dr. Carlson.
Item 8C, a motion for the adoption of committee appointments for Evan Pitcock. So moved.
Second.
I'm not going to read the whole thing over again, but Evan Pitcock to serve on the Academic Standards and Assessment Committee and the Finance Audit and Budget. Hard time with that word. And Budget Committee, and directs the Commissioner to take the necessary. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Dr. I also want to add to this is not part of the resolution. We don't need to do it, but I also want to let you know that Ms. Gilberto has agreed to chair the Academic and Standards Committee for us. So thank you for that as well. And that brings all our committee work together. We have no financial matters or consent. So I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. Enjoy your holidays.
And anybody that's on the